I never planned to become the CEO of Reynolds Industries. All I wanted was to be a good wife to Michael Reynolds and find acceptance in his prestigious family. But after 5 years of enduring their constant belittlement and watching them treat me like a trophy wife with no value beyond my appearance, I decided it was time to show them exactly who they'd been mocking all this time. My name is Victoria Chen, and this is how I went from being the worthless wife to owning their entire empire. Let me start from the beginning. I met Michael at a charity gala 5 years ago. He was charming, successful, and came from one of the most powerful families in the business world. I was a quiet MBA graduate working behind the scenes at an investment firm, analyzing market trends and developing strategic investment portfolios. On paper, we were worlds apart. "You're different," he said that night, his blue eyes twinkling. "Most women here are trying so hard to impress me, but you're actually interested in discussing market volatility and emerging market trends." We fell in love quickly. Michael appreciated my intelligence and ambition, or at least I thought he did. When he proposed 6 months later, I was overjoyed. That's when I first met his family, the infamous Reynolds clan. Patricia Reynolds, my mother-in-law, was the family matriarch, a woman who wore her designer clothes like armor and wielded her social status like a weapon. Her husband, Richard Reynolds Sr., was the CEO of Reynolds Industries, a multinational conglomerate worth billions. Michael's older brother, Richard Jr., who everyone called Rich, was the presumed heir to the company throne. From the moment I entered their world, they made it clear I didn't belong. A financial analyst? Patricia had sneered during our first meeting. How quaint. I suppose someone has to do the paperwork. That first dinner at the Reynolds mansion set the tone for everything that followed. While Michael talked business with his father and brother, I was relegated to the women's conversation about fashion and society gossip. Every attempt I made to join the business discussion was met with patronizing smiles and subtle put-downs. "Darling," Patricia would say, her voice dripping with false sweetness, "let the men handle the important matters. You just focus on looking pretty for my son." I tried to prove my worth. I offered insights into market trends, suggested investment opportunities, even pointed out potential risks in their current portfolio. But my voice might as well have been silent air. "Victoria, dear," Richard Sr. would chuckle, "these matters are a bit complex for someone of your background. Why don't you help Patricia plan the next charity gala?" Michael, to his credit, occasionally defended me in the beginning. But as time went on, he began to adopt his family's attitude. The man who had once loved discussing business strategies with me now patronized me just like the rest of them. "Honey, you don't need to worry your pretty head about these things," became his standard response whenever I tried to engage in business conversations. What they didn't know was that I had never stopped working. While they thought I was just shopping and attending social events, I was building something of my own. My years of experience in investment analysis hadn't gone to waste. I had started a private investment company under a different name. Using my maiden name and a network of shell companies, I began acquiring shares in Reynolds Industries through various channels. The family was so confident in their control that they never noticed the gradual accumulation of stock by seemingly unrelated entities. I was meticulous in my approach. Each purchase was carefully timed and structured to avoid raising suspicions. I used my insider knowledge, not of confidential information, but of the family's blind spots and weaknesses, to my advantage. The Reynolds family's greatest weakness was their arrogance. They were so convinced of their superiority that they never imagined someone like me could outmaneuver them. They didn't notice when I hired away some of their best analysts, or when I started acquiring their smaller competitors. 3 years into my marriage, I owned 35% of Reynolds Industries through various front companies. By year 4, it was 62%. And now, as I sit at their dinner table listening to them mock me once again, my ownership stands at 89%. "Victoria barely knows how to balance a checkbook," Rich laughs, swirling his expensive bourbon. "Remember when she suggested we should diversify into tech startups? As if she understands anything about real business." I smile and sip my wine, thinking about how I'd turned that exact insight into a $300 million profit through my own company. "At least she's pretty," Patricia adds with her usual condescending smile. That's really all Michael needed anyway. Someone to look good at corporate events. Michael, my loving husband, just chuckles along. He's changed so much from the man I fell in love with, shaped by his family's toxic influence into someone I barely recognize. But tonight is different. Tonight is the night everything changes. You see, last week Michael informed me he wanted a divorce. He'd fallen in love with his secretary, how cliché, and wanted to trade up to someone younger. His family fully supported his decision, of course. "We'll make sure you get nothing," Patricia had gloated. "You signed the prenup, remember? You'll leave this marriage exactly as you came into it, worthless." What they didn't know was that I had been preparing for this moment for years. The prenup protected their personal assets and Michael's direct holdings in the company. But it said nothing about shares acquired independently through the market. As Richard Sr. begins another condescending lecture about how I should be grateful for the lifestyle they've given me, I pull out my laptop. Before we discuss my divorce settlement, I say calmly, "I think it's time for a company meeting." "This is a family dinner," Richard Sr. barks. "Business can wait." "Oh, but this can't," I reply, turning my laptop around to show them the shareholders' registry. As the majority shareholder of Reynolds Industries, I'm calling an emergency board meeting. Right here, right now. The silence that falls over the table is deafening. I watch as they lean forward, their faces morphing from confusion to disbelief as they read the numbers on the screen. This is impossible," Rich stammers. "Is it?" I ask, pulling up more documentation. "I've been acquiring shares for years while you were all too busy mocking me to notice. As of this morning, I own 89% of Reynolds Industries." "You can't do this," Patricia shrieks. "We're family. Family." I laugh. "You've spent 5 years treating me like dirt, making it clear I wasn't good enough for your precious family. Well, now I own your precious family business." Michael's face has turned ashen. "The prenup only covers your personal shares, darling." I cut him off. "Everything I acquired independently is mine. Your lawyer really should have been more thorough." Richard Sr. stands up, his face purple with rage. "I built this company. And I bought it," I reply calmly. "While you were all laughing at the worthless housewife, I was building an investment empire that now controls your company. Funny how life works out, isn't it?" I stand up, smoothing my designer dress, one they always assumed Michael had bought for me. As majority shareholder, my first act will be to call for a vote of no confidence in the current management. "I believe we need new leadership, don't you?" "You can't just take over," Rich sputters. "You don't know how to run a company this size." I pull up another document. My MBA credentials, my previous work history, and most importantly, the performance records of my own company over the past 4 years. Actually, I do. My investment firm has outperformed Reynolds Industries by 300% since I started it. Perhaps if you had bothered to actually listen to my suggestions instead of dismissing me as a trophy wife, you would have noticed. The next hour is chaos. They threaten, they plead, they try to negotiate. But I hold all the cards now. By the end of the evening, Richard Sr. is forced to resign as CEO, and I take his place. "I'll destroy you," Patricia hisses as she leaves. "You'll regret this." "No, Patricia," I reply calmly. "You'll regret not seeing me as more than just your son's pretty wife." The transformation of Reynolds Industries begins immediately. I implement all the strategies they had dismissed over the years: diversification into tech, expansion into emerging markets, investment in sustainable energy. Within 6 months, our stock price doubles. Michael's divorce proceedings become a footnote. He moves in with his secretary, thinking he's escaped with his personal wealth intact. What he doesn't know is that I've documented every instance of his insider trading over the years. The SEC finds this information very interesting. A year later, Reynolds Industries has been completely transformed. The old guard is gone, replaced by a diverse team of innovative leaders. The company's profits have tripled, and our market share has expanded into new territories. I keep the Reynolds name for the company, not out of sentiment, but as a reminder. Every time they see their family name in the headlines announcing another success, they're reminded of the worthless wife, who now controls their legacy. Patricia still shows up at shareholder meetings, holding on to her minimal shares like a lifeline. She sits in the back, watching as I lead the company to heights she never imagined possible. Sometimes our eyes meet, and I see the recognition finally dawning. She grossly underestimated the quiet woman who used to sit silently at her dinner table. Rich tried to start his own company, but without his father's connections and resources, he struggled. Last I heard, he was working as a middle manager at one of our smaller competitors. As for Michael, his insider trading charges led to a hefty fine and a ban from working in the financial sector. He and his secretary broke up shortly after he lost his wealth and status. Sometimes he emails me, trying to apologize, claiming he finally sees my true worth. I never respond. His opinions stopped matching the moment he chose to become like his family. The Reynolds Mansion, where I endured so many humiliating dinners, is now my corporate headquarters. I converted the formal dining room, where they used to mock me, into my private office. The table where Patricia used to hold court now holds board meetings where I make the decisions that shape the company's future. Sometimes, late at night, I sit in that room and think about how differently things might have turned out if they had just treated me with respect. If they had seen me as a person with value beyond my role as Michael's wife. They might still be running their company, and I might have been content to be part of their family. But they made their choice, and I made mine. Last week, a young woman came into my office. A junior analyst with bright ideas and a quiet determination in her eyes. She reminded me of myself 5 years ago. When she started presenting her market analysis, some of the older board members tried to dismiss her. I stopped them cold. Listen to her, I commanded. In this company, we value intelligence and innovation, regardless of who it comes from. The look of gratitude in her eyes made me smile. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success. It's using that success to ensure no one else has to endure what you did. Epilogue. 5 years have passed since I took control of Reynolds Industries, now rebranded as Chen Global Enterprises. The company has grown beyond anyone's expectations, expanding into new markets and technologies that the old guard never would have considered. Patricia Reynolds still appears in society pages occasionally, but her influence has waned. The woman who once mockingly called me just a housewife now watches from the sidelines as I run the empire she thought would always belong to her family. Michael remarried recently, another young, beautiful woman who smiles politely at social events. I recognize the look in her eyes, the same one I had in the beginning. I made sure to have my assistant send her my business card, just in case she ever needs support. The company's success has become a case study in business schools. Sometimes I'm asked to give lectures about how I built my investment empire while everyone thought I was just shopping and planning parties. The students are always surprised to learn that the best disguise is often the one people create for you in their own minds. Rich tried to reconcile last year, claiming he had learned his lesson about judging people. I sent him a copy of my first dismissed investment proposal, now worth billions, with a simple note. Lessons learned too late are opportunities lost forever. The worthless wife, they mocked, now runs a global empire worth 10 times what Reynolds Industries was worth under their leadership. Every quarter, when we announce record profits, I think about those family dinners where they laughed at my suggestions and dismissed my insights. These days, I host my own dinner parties in the mansion. But unlike the Reynolds family gatherings, mine celebrate innovation, diversity, and respect. The table where I once sat silently now rings with voices of all kinds. Young entrepreneurs, veteran investors, brilliant minds from every background. And if sometimes late at night, I raise a glass to the family that underestimated me, well, that's just between me and the empire they never knew I was building. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video. Stay stunned.